Hey, Survey Gang. Jumping on here to clarify a couple of ideas that are floating around in the thread on naturalism and the Greeks. You guys are doing a good job in all the questions, getting into some really good discussion of the different aspects of Greek art that I've asked you to think about. So keep at it. And I did want to also tell you that next module, we're back in the smaller groups. So for module 4, I'm going to do a poll about, do you want that split up or do you want to all come back together for our final module, which is module 4. So we'll see what the vote says, and if it's split like half and half, I don't know what I'll do. But if there's one preference that kind of stands out, then that's what we'll do. Anyway, so I wanted to talk to you about a little bit more about what naturalism means and the idea of perfection that some of you are talking about, which I think has a little bit of our 21st century idea of perfect that is kind of seeping into the answers. That's not quite what the Greeks were doing, because I really want to explain to you a little bit about idealism, because within the concept of naturalism, or the naturalism that the Greeks are trying to attain, there is this idea of idealism. And idealism is a little different than perfection, because the idea of perfection really kind of shifts depending on, what is the culture view as the perfect form. Maybe in the woman of Willendorf example, being fat was ideal or perfect because that was, showing that you had plenty of food. But the concept of idealism is kind of embedded into naturalism, and it's also embedded into Greek philosophy. And so, what I'm trying to get you guys to maybe see with this little video here is that the Greeks believe that when we exist in the world, we're experiencing fragments or shadows or glimpses of an ideal world that exists beyond us. So the example I give that I think helps most of the time is you might be watching this seated in a chair, and that chair has elements of the perfect or ideal chair that exists out in the world, but it's not the ideal chair that you're sitting in, because we can't have that in this non-ideal world. So what I want you to see is that when Polykleitos is sculpting the Doryphoros, he's putting together all of these ideal parts that he might glimpse in the world. So maybe there's one person that has like the ideal chest, but not ideal legs, because nobody is ideal. Nobody is able to attain in this world that is not ideal. No one is able to have everything that exists in that ideal world. Am I making any sense? Um, this is hard because like nobody's in front of me, so I can't see any heads nodding like, oh yeah, we get what you're saying. So you'll have to write in your learning journals or in the discussion board if this video is making any sense. But what I'm trying to get across to you is that the Doryphoros is idealized, but it's not from life. So he didn't like find someone and say, "You're it, man. You're like my ideal man. Come in. Let me sculpt you." That is an ideal form that does not exist in the world. So it is sort of like the perfect person in the sense of what the Greeks idealize, but it doesn't last for very long either. It only lasts from like 480 to around 400, and then we start to have like maybe 80 years, not even 100 years. Excuse me, what did I say? 450. 450 to something like 400. So 50 years maybe? And then they really start to elongate the proportions. I put in a comment in the discussion board about the statue of Hermes with the infant Dionysus, and I don't think there's a video for that, so I don't think I had a link to it, but I don't remember. But that's like a perfect example of the elongated portion, because Hermes is like, his back is so long that he's able to like curve over to hold some grapes for the little baby Dionysus that like reaches for them. So it's the The subject is not very serious. It's like baby Dionysus. He's a baby, but he somehow knows that grapes will mean wine, and he's like a baby. He's like an infant. So it's like that's kind of like a chuckle, like oh, he even knew back then, like what to do with the grapes. And then the statue of or the body of Hermes is like extremely elongated. Like those are some long legs, and he would not be able to twist his torso if that wasn't elongated also. So it's very short lived. This ideal perfection, or however you want to say it. I just want you to make sure that you understand when you're saying perfect that it's not the 21st century idea, but the idea of idealism that the Greeks are embodying with their search for naturalism. I hope I haven't confused you. Did I confuse you? I hope not. Anyway, keep going, and I look forward to seeing your papers about what should we do about those Parthenon sculptures and museums and repatriation, and these are very, very thorny issues. It's not if you think it's easy, then you're not digging deeply enough into these issues. If we start to give stuff back, does that empty out Western museums and they have nothing but their current, like the culture that they are? Like, where do we learn about other things? Do we have to then all go to Egypt or all go to Greece to learn about those cultures? So think about that, and I look forward to what you say. Any questions, problems, email, as always. Bye!